Mr. Chairman, thank you for inviting Student Veterans of America to submit our testimony regarding pending legislation intended to increase support for military service members and veterans. Student Veterans of America is the largest and only national association of military veterans in higher education. Our mission is to provide military veterans with the resources, support, and advocacy needed to succeed in higher education and after graduation. We currently have nearly 1,000 chapters or student veteran organizations at colleges and universities in all 50 states that empowers veterans in their transition and through higher education. This on-the-ground perspective, which comes from every corner of this nation, and our experience in supporting thousands of GI Bill beneficiaries provides the framework for our testimony regarding these important issues. The two bills we would like to address today are H.R. 4150 and H.R. 4151 from the offices of Congressman Cook and Bill Rackus, respectively. Looking at H.R. 4150, Veterans Employment and Training Services Longitudinal Study Act of 2014, on March 24th, we released our initial findings of our Million Records Project, an SVA-led research study of veterans in higher education in collaboration with the Department of Veterans Affairs and the National Student Clearinghouse. As we look at H.R. 4150, we find it to be complementary to our research and within the spirit of seeking data-driven decisions on programs to support veterans in higher education. Since our organization's inception, we have held that the life cycle of the veterans' transition from the military to school and onward to civilian careers is a highly interdependent process. Each component of this process builds on the preceding steps, and this legislation seeks to empower veterans through several critical stages. For example, the Department of Labor's Veterans Employment and Training Service, VETS, builds bridges for millions of veterans across over the coming years as they pursue gainful careers and post-graduation. However, the current lack of coordination and understanding of the breadth of impact surrounding this part of the transition process is a crucial gap that must be addressed. SVA applauds the interest in moving towards the goal of gaining greater clarity on the impact of job counseling, training, and placement of veterans. In 2012, a GAO report noted that the federal government has sponsored 6 different programs serving at least 880,000 participants at a cost of $1.2 billion. Such a broad variety of resources might be seen as a positive attribute and certainly reflects a sea of goodwill that has developed over the past decade. However, without coordination, duplicative efforts and inefficiencies threaten to stymie this full potential of these resources. A study as this legislation proposes would enable decision makers at multiple levels to understand what is working. As well, the study would highlight areas for change. SVA is in full support of H.R. 4150 and applauds the legislation for being fully inclusive of all individuals of any kind in educational assistance. Turning to H.R. 4151, the Veterans Education Survey Act of 2014, SVA stands in strong favor of Congressman Bill Rackus' legislation, H.R. 4151. It is right for some Americans to ask, what are we receiving for our investment in the GI Bill? Indeed, this is a crucial question as more than $34 billion has been spent on millions of veterans who have sought and are seeking degrees in higher education. As previously noted, our Million Records Project has sought to answer that question. H.R. 4151 is an important piece of legislation because it answers another key element of this investment in our veterans: what motivates veterans to pursue the paths that they do. We know that a majority of service members elect to pursue higher education as they transition out of the military. With an expected 1 million new veterans to enter the civilian population over the next several years, the importance of empowering veterans in higher education will continue to increase. Through the Million Records Project, there are several data points that we have gained great insight on, and when paired with the data that would be collected through a study directed by this legislation, the picture will become even clearer. This legislation will add another element to that picture: factors that impact the paths veterans pursue in higher education. The more data available on these topics, the better. Since 2000, over 4 million veterans have benefited from the use of the GI Bill, and American taxpayers can expect that this generation of veterans will positively impact the American economy in magnitudes that will continue for several generations to come. Student Veterans of America is appreciative of the opportunity to provide this testimony. We thank the chairman, the subcommittee members for their time and attention and devotion to the cause of veterans in higher education, and we look forward to continuing to work with the subcommittee, the House Veterans Affairs Committee, and Congress to ensure the success of all generations of veterans through education. Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing Student Veterans of America the opportunity to participate in this important hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. I thank all of you for your testimony. I'll now recognize myself for 5 minutes for questions. This is a question for all of panel 2. When the VA objects to holding senior executive or SES employees accountable, let me rephrase the question. They didn't say that. If the VA is resistant to reforming the SES employment protocols, what sort of a message does that send to our veterans? Let's start with Mr. Gonzalez.
Chairman, at this moment, I am not pretty much the person that would deal with this particular issue. My colleague, who is not here today, we'd be more than happy to follow up with your staff with a written statement for the record on your particular question, Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Hicks, if you were pretty passionate about this subject, what message do you think this sends to our veterans?
I think it sends a signal of detachment from reality.